Tenants groan as Abuja landlords increase rent. Property owners blame high cost of building materials, and developers seek signing of real estate bill. You'll find this major story on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Below the headmaster, we have Tinubu won't allow anyone frustrate Rivers government. That's according to the presidency. You'll find this story on page 14. I can't wait to dissect that situation there. Citizens decry new taxes as the federal government entices investors with waivers. Stakeholders unite against out-of-school children menace in the Northeast. At this point is the North in general. Below the major story there, we have 14 abducted Kogi Varsity students rescued. That's according to the police. Tariff hike, Labour pickets NERC discos offices today. There's troops dislodge terrorists, seize weapons in Taraba. You find the story on page 15. 3 die, 21 injured in Ogun, multiple road crashes. Court convicts woman for forging carrier's signature. And contractors kick as Abuja malfunctioning. Street lights raise dust. Talking about street lights in Abuja, it's really a sad situation where we keep going back and forth on what is happening there. You'll find the story on page 42. Now, these are some of the stories that you can find, and there is even more on the Daily Trust newspaper. Now, let's move on to other newspaper here. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. From the top of the page, National Assembly gets new tax report September. National State Assemblies to spend 724 billion naira in 2024. Rivers Assembly, Fubara pro-Wiki lawmakers clash over relocation. And beside the headmaster, we see Harry, Meghan end Nigerian tour on a bright, sporty note. The major stories: electricity tariff hike, Labour demands reversal as protests begin today. The NLC and TUC orders to picket NERC office. This goes in 36 states. Bank chiefs obtain 549 billion naira insider loans in 5 years. Stop electricity subsidy, IMF tells the federal government. Below the belt there, it says, don't stop dancing but govern well. Obasanjo advises Adeleke, that's the governor of Osun State. Man arrested for exposing 4-year-old's sensitive parts online. That's horrible. NDLEA holds suspects with 3 trucks of codeine and pills. These are the stories that you find on the Punch newspaper this morning. Let's look at the Guardian newspaper there. The major story is about energy prices that soar by 70%, cost manufacturers 290 billion naira in the first quarter. You find that on page 9, and there is infography of the details, the statistics of what's happening, saying the distribution cost spike to 20.7%, capacity utilization dropped to about minus 9.76% from 3.81%. Details of all of that, of the cost of shipment that rose sharply to 22.16% from 19.48%. If you want to dissect that, then go grab the Guardian newspaper this morning. You find the story on page 8. Below that, we see Sarab Agbakoba, COS, head to court as federal government quietly withdraws cybersecurity levy. Labour to paralyze power sector over tariff hike. Nigeria is complex but not difficult to govern, says Obasanjo. Agree with that. Withdraw death penalty for drug offences. ASF France tells Senate. Rivers elders caution Fubara against tampering with assembly quarters. Again, gunmen kill 3 policemen, road safety official in Enugu. And troops bust terrorist hideout in Taraba, seize arms and ammunition. That's a progress for the Nigerian army. Now, these are the stories that we have on the Guardian newspaper. And with that, of course, would definitely go ahead and review these papers that we have this morning. And we have Suleiman Obagaya, the CEO, Sky Limit Media Group editor and the former president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, joining us to dissect the front pages. Good morning. It's good to have you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So it's Monday again. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's dissect the first one, which is tenants groan as Abuja landlord increase prices. I mean, we had a report also from Borno where people in Maiduguri metropolis are echoing the same concern, even though they made mention that their main issues is because of the high cost of building materials. But we have people who have old houses also charging, increasing prices with the economic hardship. What is your take on all of this?
Well, it's a national malaise. It's not just limited to Abuja. It's a national tragedy. You find landlords increasing rent arbitrarily in the way they want. Some even giving you as little as a month's notice while doubling the rate, and they insisting that the new rate must be paid. They are taking advantage of the fact that not everyone in Nigeria has time to go to court, obviously because Nigerians have lost tremendous confidence in the judiciary. So if that were not the case, if the landlords could be taken to court, definitely they would have stopped this kind of arbitrariness. Of course, there is the argument by the landlords that cost of building materials have skyrocketed. That is true. But you also just pointed out the fact that most of the buildings are old, so they are not newly built, and the issue of skyrocketing of building materials does not even arise there. But of course, another argument that is somewhat valid is the fact that most of the landlords also maintain the properties, and of course they have to they go to the same market with me and you, with the tenants, and buy the materials to maintain the properties. Otherwise, if they leverage on just the tenants, their properties may end up decaying. So it's a back and forth kind of argument. But the other story, the rider about developers 6 signing of real estate bill, that would have been a welcome development if President Buhari had assented to the real estate development bill that was taken to him by the Ninth Assembly, just before he left power. Unfortunately, he didn't sign it, and we don't know whether President Tinubu is going to do so. If that had been signed, it would have made ownership of property easier, and thereby reducing demand in terms of rental properties.
Yeah,
and once there is less demand, then the price will certainly drop. Yeah.
I mean, that is smart. We would have to wait and see, considering the present administration has a lot in their plate right now.
Indeed.
All right, let's talk about another situation, that happened, speaking on insecurity and what the federal government have in their plate. The 14 abducted Kogi University students were rescued, as according to police. Security has always been, and should have been the forefront of the budget, the economy, but then everything is being affected now due to insecurity, and people have been scared based on the reputation of these occurrences of students going to school but then not coming back home because of insecurity. Even with the swiftness of the police in order to make sure these children get back home safely, what is your take on the occurrence of all of this, or reoccurrence?
Well, government needs to do more in terms of securing us, the citizenry. You see, the number one responsibility of any government is security of life and property. And when that doesn't happen, it aggregates to failure on the part of the government in power. So the Tinubu administration needs to do more. I know they are doing a lot towards containing the security problem that is prevalent, or that is even getting worse. But they need to do more, and there is no time. Time is of the essence.
Indeed.
We are talking about life and property, people getting killed and getting kidnapped, harassed, dehumanized left, right, and center. And it's, the fact that it is also getting more prevalent in our universities is quite disturbing. It has happened in, I remember Gusau, Federal University Gusau, then several other universities, then this one in Kogi. The good thing about it is that the police have rescued at least 14 students from what the story tells us. It's a good development. We encourage them to continue to do more heroics towards ensuring that the landscape is safe for students and other citizens to operate.
Indeed. I mean, the future of the Nigerian, which is, of course, the leaders of tomorrow.
Exactly, leaders of tomorrow, yeah.
All right, let's talk about taxes. Citizens decry new taxes as federal government entices investors with waivers. While Nigerians want investors to come in, if the investors coming in will not, they waiver a lot of taxes of them, but then citizens are drained on a daily basis. We also have the cyber security, of course, levy that was supposed to, if at all Nigerian didn't push back, it would have been implemented, and that would have been another major issue hanging out on Nigerians' head. But then federal government is promising investors that, okay, you will not pay enough, at least just come into the country. What is your take on all of that?
Well, you see, I'm sure the government has very solid intention towards resolving our economic problems. The Buhari administration left a lot of mess economically, and the Tinubu administration has a lot of responsibility, a lot of work to do to cleanse the audience table. But then the government, I'm sorry, with all due respect, seems to be a little bit confused about which economic policy to enact. They have been urged by the Bretton Woods institution, the IMF and the World Bank, to make life difficult for the citizens by insisting that subsidy and things of that nature must be withdrawn. For example, in the power sector, the IMF was telling is telling this government that the subsidy it has somehow restored is going to cost us around 3% of our GDP. All these semantics, you understand, it's like getting the federal government to have on paper an impressive balance sheet. It's like you having a car, painting your car beautifully from outside, but it's a car that cannot take you to Bega from here. So it's like you are deceiving yourself. Having a very good balance sheet that maybe attracts investors while your citizens are dying of hunger, of want, of disease, doesn't make sense. So government really needs to do more. And I don't know why they are enticing investors with waivers. Is it practical? And if you are going to give investors a lot of waivers, why don't you? There is a local investment also. That is how the GDP is even growing. So by the time you overtax your local investors, local businesses, you push them out of business. It's like you are also deceiving yourself, because these are the permanent investors. They are the ones that you have. Foreign investors can come in at any time and leave at any time. So it's better you leverage your economic policies in such a way and manner that local investors or local businesses are encouraged to thrive, not to stifle them out of existence.
Indeed. I mean, a typical example would be what is happening in China. We've seen how they've made sure, that the production from their own country, it's all that matters, and push it for exportation. Exactly. All right, besides that, let's take a look at what is happening in River State. I wanted to get your take on what is happening between the pro-Wiki and pro-Fubara. I mean, this has been going on for the longest time. We saw how the journey where the president called them, and there was a peace signing, which a lot of people said it was favoring Wiki more than it favored the present government of River State. So now the presidency is talking, saying that he will not allow anybody to frustrate Fubara. But we know of the alliance between the presidency and the current minister of the FCT, who is Wiki. So how do you think this can be, resolved? How do you think this would work?
Well, quite all right. The FCT minister, Nyesom Wiki, has contributed tremendously towards the election of President Tinubu. But that shall and will never be adequate reason why he should be allowed to destabilize River State. Because the way things are happening, that is exactly what is at play. Wike has been allowed to do what he wants. He's destabilizing the government. He has refused to allow the government to operate. It is every day one problem after the other. He keeps talking about his structure. If it is about structure, he wouldn't have been empowered today. He wouldn't even have become the governor because he was operating under Amechi's structure also. He was a local government chairman under Odili. Then he became chief of staff under Amechi. Then Amechi lobbied for the same Wike to be made a minister. After he was made a minister, he abandoned Amechi, came up with his own structure. He became governor, you know. So if it is about structure getting permanent, then why did he scatter that of Amechi? So it's not about structure becoming permanent. It's about good governance. And he also is a record to have said that once you are out of power, even if it is your own child, you should allow him to rule. That he will not interfere in the governance of rivers, and that he will allow whoever the governor was to govern as he deems fit, and only give his advice when he is called upon. But that is not what is happening. We all know that, and I'm very sure of this, that even before they had this fallout, the governor didn't even have power to come to Abuja without authorization from Wike. For God's sake.
That doesn't even make sense at all, honestly. It doesn't. And so, the people of Rivers seem to like their governor. So.
Exactly. They like their governor. And the Wike has been too overbearing. Tinubu, the President Tinubu, has a responsibility because this is his government. If he allows Rivers to be destabilized, to burn, I'm telling you, it will not just affect his government, it will affect the entirety of the country.
Indeed.
Rivers is part of the live wire of Nigeria. You know, they have a lot of oil wells. A large percentage of the oil we export every day comes from rivers. I mean. So government really needs to do real. You know, it shouldn't be just rhetoric. We want to see action.
Indeed.
You know, want to see action. Let them stop Wike from interfering. Yesterday, shamefully, as I was driving from the airport, there was no light, street light, from the airport up to the city gate. In fact, beyond the city gate, there was no street light. You can imagine, if you are talking about investors, foreign investors or whatever, what impression would they have of Nigeria coming into a country's capital city in darkness? You know, we are right around 10 plus.
That's a major point.
Exactly. So it's simply because I believe it's because Wike is an achiever quite already.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he concentrate in his job as FCT minister and deliver the goods? If he doesn't have time for that, then the president should remove him and allow him fight Governor Pobara. Because honestly, we can't afford a situation where the FCT minister who should be roundly busy, you know, trying to deliver on the mandate assigned him by the president or by the constitution, you know, distracting himself almost every weekend, going to Rivers, saying one thing or the other, organizing all sorts of things, making the House of Assembly composed of his stooges to refuse to allow the governor to work, coming up with all sorts of irresponsible legislations. President Tinubu knows these are realities, and he knows that if he doesn't stop that, the overbearance by Wike, it will derail his government. I'm sorry, I have to put it that way. It's just reality.
It will escalate. At the end of the day, the president is the leader of the country, and he should be the person calling for peace. Exactly. And make sure there is no, at least, dragging of someone's right in the mud. Well, thank you so much, Suleiman Obagaya. Because of time, of course, we cannot. Exactly, because we still have a lot of stories.
I was really enjoying
Indeed.
the program.
Thank you so much for joining us and dissecting the front pages. And of course, next week, Monday, is just around the corner.
Yeah, of course.
And with that, of course, we have come to the end of today's show, which is the start of the week. We do hope that you have a lovely week.